Welcome to the Expat Edge with Marcus and Matt, where we answer your questions about becoming an expat to help you thrive abroad.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Expat Edge. Today we're going to talk about how to get a US passport. Now it might seem easy, but if anybody's tried to get a US passport in the past, 6 to 12 months, you'll have seen that the waiting times are very, very long. Marcus has actually been helping people get visas for a long time, but in the kind of more recent past, he started helping people also get passports when they need them in a rush. Marcus, maybe what would be your sort of suggestions for how to get a US passport given the current backup?
Yeah, so we're not Let's Fresh is not a passport provider, service provider, but we get that question a lot because people are getting ready to go on their trips and they notice that their passport's expiring. So I'll say, get it renewed before you get a long-term visa, because then obviously you have to cut your trip short or go to a different, US consulate or whatever. But the typical way obviously is you can do anywhere. If you've had a US passport before, you can go and renew it by mail. If you're doing it for the first time as an adult, then you can go and you'll have to go to like a list of places near you that can verify your identity, basically. And most people just go to the post office. So you can get one even technically by mail, where you would just go to your local post office, verify your identity, then mail in your documents, and you'll get them back within 2 to 6 weeks, depending on your location, the situation.
Oh no!
With COVID,
it's not 2 to 6 weeks
with
anymore.
COVID.
It's 8 to 12.
Yeah. With COVID, that stretched out for several months. I don't know how it is exactly now. And some people have said that they've waited 6 to 10 weeks, something like that.
Well,
Do you have any?
Right now it's 8 to 12 weeks if you go on the site. At least it was last week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and rush is only 6 to 8 weeks. If you rush a passport, it's only 6 to 8 weeks.
Right. So there is a little trick here, and that's what I was going to mention next. A lot of people don't know this. So there are some locations of U.S. passport agency. So you can just go to Google Maps and type in U.S. passport agency, and you'll see the locations in major cities across the U.S. So the easiest way to get it fast is if you're going on a trip in the near future, then you can go to these U.S. passport agencies in a neighboring major city, like, Houston, Seattle, LA, Atlanta, New York City. And then you go in person, you have all your documents, you go in person. Ideally, you call them, make an appointment for the next, week. Right. Sometimes they're just booked out. So you have to go and just wait in line, or, you just wait.
Right.
And you have to prove that you need a U.S. passport urgently. Right. And then you can get it within 1 to 3 days, typically.
Sometimes same day.
And sometimes the same day. So it really depends on your case, right? So you could show up and you say, I need to leave tomorrow. And then you have to provide some kind of proof. So if there's a family member who's in the hospital, a death, these are extreme cases, but one way to kind of get around that is to buy a ticket to, an international destination. So you have your itinerary and the date that you're leaving in your name. You bring that as proof that you need to leave, and it will be accepted.
Right. It can be just a tourist trip. My cousin actually did this recently. She was going to Canada, just a simple trip this time, but she was going to Canada, realized a few days before that her passport had expired, and she flew from New York City to Houston, because Houston was the only place in the U.S. that had an appointment for the next day, and she got the passport that day.
Oh, wow.
She got the passport that day. So she went at 8 in the morning, she had an appointment, and it was ready after lunch. So it's definitely possible. I have a question. What if you want to get a first passport? Can you also do that? Or does the first passport have to
You can do that as well. You just have to have your birth certificate, some form of ID saying that you are a U.S. citizen. Right. This is typical for minors, because minors have to, if there's a minor involved, you would have to actually show up. This is particularly the case in when you need to get a U.S. passport for a minor abroad. You have to go to the U.S. consulate abroad to get it for your son or daughter. But if you're in the U.S., the fastest way to do it is to show up in person. And your cousin could have gone to the U.S. passport agency in New York City and waited in line.
Well, she was probably
worried. That can
worried.
take several hours.
Right. Well, she was probably worried, well, what if, they don't get to process mine today? She literally needed it like that day. So she called around.
Yeah.
And you know how the U.S. government situation works. You call the number and they say, yeah, you can come and wait. And you and I know 99% of the cases, they'll be processed that day if you showed up to get it done. But it is the U.S. government. They probably tell you, you can come and wait, but there's no guarantee. And so they kind of sow doubt. So when she heard that she could go to Houston and it was a guarantee, then.
Well, I've called the U.S. passport agency several times on behalf of clients who need to get their passport and a visa. And I've learned this process myself, what documents you need. And basically, when you talk to them on the phone, they'll be like, okay, there's no appointment available. Mm-hmm. And they'll say the next appointment that we have is, and then they'll say the date, and you'll think, okay, well, I can't get it earlier than that, but that's not necessarily true. You can, if you tell them on the phone, I need it before then, they won't necessarily give you they'll basically say, okay, come, and you'll have to wait in line. And so that you can wait in line, but they don't tell you on the phone that that's possible. But you basically have to show up, wait in line till they have, a free agent. And sometimes you're waiting. We've had agents wait 1 to 3 hours for our clients.
Got it. Okay. So it's not very transparent, I guess, is what I was trying to get at, is that
right.
The opportunity is there, but they might not tell you about it. Even if you do go, you're going to have to wait.
Right. And so that's the case if, let's say you need a passport for yourself or, a family member. You can show up. All family members, if they had a passport before, they don't necessarily need to show up. Like you could do it for your spouse and you, and just one of you go and have the letter of permission. It doesn't have to be notarized or anything. And then if you're not in the vicinity of like a U.S. passport agency where you can go yourself, obviously there are agencies, privately owned agencies that take, several $100s up to $1,000 easily for expediting this, your passport. But you can also, let's say you had a friend in Chicago and you're nowhere near a U.S. passport agency, you can have them go on your behalf as long as they have the permission letter signed by you saying, so-and-so, he has my authority to apply for a passport renewal for me, expedited, here are all my documents. Right. And he would just go and either have an appointment or stand in line.
Well, what's interesting about this is that in most countries, there are lots of rules around handling passports and mailing passports, but the U.S. is very lax about that. Just thinking about our experience in Russia, you can't even send a passport in the mail in Russia, for example. And other people can't have any kind of possession of someone else's passport. You can't have anyone go and do anything with or for another passport. So in the European countries, it's quite similar to that. But in the U.S., it's...
Well, even if you had a power of attorney, you show up and they're like, where is this person? Why? Right. And they might process it, but there'll be questions. Whereas this, in this case, all I don't know how many we've done, maybe a handful, 6 to 10 or so. Yeah. But in every case, they would ask, what are the circumstances, but they never questioned the authority
Right.
of the, permission letter. It's not notarized or anything. It's just
Right.
signed by the person.
Right.
So that's one way to definitely get a U.S. passport quickly. If you can't get to a U.S. passport agency yourself, you could, call out to a friend or something who is in one of those cities.
Right. Right. So hopefully that was helpful. I know a lot of people, given the COVID backups, and I even get questions about passports. How do I get a passport faster? What are the ways to get around this big backlog that the U.S. government has? Hopefully this was helpful. If you got any questions, let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in another video. This was the Expat Edge with Matt and Marcus. We hope you enjoyed the video. Visit theexpatedge.com for even more content that will help you thrive abroad. You can submit your ideas for video topics and sign up for free at theexpatedge.com. See you there.